Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, and my name is Fassio. Here I like to share my passion for creativity and knitting. Now I'm so happy that you like the Luna video where I showed how to knit a top-down sweater by working on your measurements and step by step all the different techniques that you can use. One of the questions that you have asked me is how can I understand how many stitches I have to cast on if I want a different size of neckline. I'm going to show you step by step how to understand it by using your gauge in the yarn you're going to use. In the description below you can find all more details. As for all my videos, you can find the details of the sweater and the gauge and yarn that I have used. So now let's go and see how to work and calculate step by step the gauge that you need, and then the small numbers and calculations that we have to do in order to understand how many stitches to cast on for your top-down sweater. So now let's see what do we need. First of all, we need our sample to measure our gauge, and it is important to work it bigger than 10 centimeters for 10 centimeters because we are going to measure exactly the 10 centimeters inside. So it's better if it's about like 12 centimeters or 15 for 15 or 12 for 12. So what are we going to do? We are going to wash it and block it exactly as we are going to do with our sweater, and then it is important also, if you want, you can iron it, but be careful because not all yarn compositions are good for ironing, so just check it, but you can wash it and block it and let it dry during the night. Then we need a ruler, and I suggest to have a solid or rigid ruler like this one. It's a wooden one, and you have also the point measures inside, but the important thing is to have it rigid. And then we need a soft tape measure that we are going to use to measure the circumference that we want to obtain. So now with the ruler we are going to measure exactly the 10 centimeters in order to have the number of stitches. You can also make a mask with solid paper, so you can have exactly the 10 centimeters and 10 centimeters inside. But the important thing is to use the soft tape to measure the circumference that you want to obtain. And in my case, I'm going to do all the number calculations with 60 centimeters circumference. That's going to be like the cast on stitches. Okay, it's not that soft, but the sweater will be soft and will pass by my head. So, but this is what we are going to do. And here we are with the sample to measure the gauge. Generally, especially in my pattern instructions, if there is no indication after the gauge for the type of stitches, it's thought to be done in stockinette stitch. Here for this example we have a nice pattern, but we need it as for example. So we take the ruler and we position it on our washed and blocked sample in order to count the stitches in our 10 centimeters. Of course, then we need to count the rows for our sweater if we are considering gauge. But now for what we need, the numbers we need to calculate how many stitches to cast on, we only need to know how many stitches we have in 10 centimeters. So we are going to count them. If we need, we can position some needles to define the points, but we just count. So now I'm going to take a piece of paper and I'm going to show you how to calculate everything. First of all, I wanted just to make a reflection on the fact that in classical pattern making, when we have this indication for the neckline, it's considered between the two shoulder points because see it's the distance between the two shoulder points. But what that on that point, it's not the circumference, and we need to calculate exactly the circumference that we want. So let's make an example. For example, we have 20 stitches in 10 centimeters, and we need to know, so we do like the math in class in school, x, and then we have the 60 centimeters that we want to obtain, and x is the number of stitches that I'm going to cast on. So we are going to do the math, so it's going to be 10x is equal to 1,200. So x, the number of stitches that I'm going to cast on, is 120 stitches. In this way, if like in the classical raglan sweater, top-down sweater, as in the video Luna that you can find here on YouTube, it's easy to calculate how to divide the stitches between the different sections when you need the raglan marker. So we have the beginning of the round M big and the 4 markers for the raglan increases. So what happens? 120 is easily divided by 3, and then 40 can be divided by 2. So we know how many stitches, and this works very well with this 120. So we put 40 in the front, 40 in the back, but divided by 20 by the center marker M, and then 20 on each shoulder point. But now let's see what happens if I obtain a number that it's a little bit different by 120, so it cannot be divided by 3. So x, we used these numbers that work really well to obtain the 60 centimeters. We calculated that x, the number of stitches, is 120. And we divide it very well. But what happens if, for example, I obtain a number like 122 or 125? I can easily decide to cast on 120 stitches. It will work exactly fine. It's not this one stitch more or one stitch less. Or I can decide to put like 2 stitches more in the front and 1 in the different other sections, considering that in the back will be 2 because they are divided by the M marker. And another example is what happens if I obtain a number like 130. Then I can decide to cast on 130 stitches, work the neckline border, maybe with a 1 by 1 ribbing that works very well with 130 stitches. And then before putting the markers for the raglan increases, I can decide to make 1 round by knitting and put 2 increases during the round in order to obtain 132. That's a number that can easily be divided by 3 and then by 2 in order to divide very well our stitches for the raglan yoke. So here we are at the end of the video, and I really hope you enjoyed it and that it was helpful. If you need any questions or you have any doubts, you can write here in the comment below so I can answer you, and you can also find me on Instagram as Fassio. Bye.